Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Yacach. Come, let us reason together. Today I have the incomparable Reverend Gloria Wilson-Andoh in the house. Let's give it a pause.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Good to have you, Pastor Gloria. My first question for you today is, how does it feel to be a pastor of CICC, a great church?
For me, I think it's a great privilege because it's a very amazing group of people putting us for a better congregation. They're amazing. They're lovely.
So I'm asking dumb questions because I'm not from CICC. I'm just an interviewer. So why do you guys call yourselves a contagious church?
Why do we call ourselves a contagious church?
The contagious church.
I think mainly because once you become a part of the family, whether it's the madness, whether it's the grace, whether it's the blessing, whether it's the mindset, you get infected with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you just need to hang around. And just like any, contagious disease, you can't hang around it and not be affected by it. So I think that we tend to have that impact on people.
So somebody asked me to ask you this question. So I'm going to ask, why do you always get excited and dance and, because normally we know first ladies to be very prim and proper who but you just get on the stage and you dance and you scream, and sometimes we forget you're a pastor. So why do you do that?
I wonder who asked that question. I tried it. I think when I first became a pastor in the year, 2000, I tried it because that's also the example I'd seen around. And generally, there's that expectation that when you become a pastor, you have to look pastoral, act pastoral. So I tried it. I tried it probably for a couple of weeks.
Oh, just 2 weeks.
And then what made me realize that if I'm going to be a pastor for the rest of my life, it's going to be a challenge. Went for a women's conference in America, and all the pastors, maybe about 20, 30 pastors sitting on the first two rows, legs crossed, looking very amazing, with their armor bearers behind them. And then I also had to cross my leg and sit 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and they were having an amazing praise and worship. And so many people in front dancing, and I'm like, oh, this used to be me for about 5 minutes. Then I turned to my spiritual mother who was sitting, I think, to my left. And I asked her, I said, I'm sorry, can I go and join the dance? And she said, oh, she's even surprised I'm sitting. So I jumped. And when I finished, I realized that my pastoral calling hadn't gone down.
So that was it.
I just realized that God was not expecting me to change. He was actually expecting me to become even more of myself. So I think that the more the grace increases, the more the anointing increases, the more my heart opens for the Lord. And I think that for me, it's just a natural part.
So now let's come and talk about your own pastoral journey. So how has it been like? How has your pastoral journey been like from the beginning? Did you see yourself as becoming a pastor?
No, I don't know who I was having a chat with somebody quite recently on this particular topic, and I was like, most people sort of have a plan or an expectation, or when they were young, they sense the call of God on their life, and actually, I think that my natural temperament even meant that I couldn't be a pastoral. I couldn't have a pastoral gift. Naturally, I'm not generally a people's person unless I know you. I don't just go out of my way to be nice, naturally. So I think that the absence of friendliness meant that I had to even do that. I just felt like I like my space, don't want anybody in my space. And my understanding of a pastor is that you're very loving, welcoming, you just
Which was the
embrace,
opposite of you.
which was the opposite of my natural self, but one thing I knew once I started serving God was that I will serve God in any capacity He wants me to. So as far as I was concerned, my covenant with God is that I'm going to serve you. So whether it's cleaning, whether it's serving, whether it's, obviously I don't have, the top 5 talents, but
What is the top 5
can sing, can play instruments, whatever. But I knew that whatever I had to do in the house of God. So I think it progressed from there, whether it's leading a Bible class, just helping out here. And so it sort of evolved. Obviously, I think it was just a couple of months ago, my cousin was around and she was reminding me that when we were 9 years old.
That story. Tell us that story. It's very interesting. Listen to the story.
When we were 9 years old, on, it must have been, so it was that day. So I think it was 5th March, if I'm right. And I was in primary school in association, class 6. And we had finished, obviously school was over. We had finished all our 2 million after school
activities.
Taekwondo, for those who didn't know, don't try me. Taekwondo and all the different things. And normally by 4 p.m., we are ready to leave. So it was me, my cousin, and 2 others who we all used to be picked up together by our driver. We're there 4, 5, 6. It was getting dark. And at that time, Action Chapel used to meet in the school, in the year 7 class, and so they were in their meeting. I really remember because they formed a big circle. I think it was their midweek prayer meeting, formed their big circle. So I think at some point, and Archbishop Nick noticed that
Archbishop Duncan Williams.
Yes, noticed that these little girls were sitting there. And I remember all that because I remember him coming, bringing us in, and asking
to their
us,
meeting.
Not into the meeting, just into the room, not into like there. It's like, are we okay? So we are waiting to be picked up, And what I remember was the fact that.
So how old were you by then?
I was about 9.
Okay.
9. Yeah, I was not yet. The following year before we went to take out community transfer. And then he said if he organized a taxi, would we find our way home? And we said yes, But my cousin, and then I remember him praying for us. But my cousin reminded me that when they brought us in there and they were praying things, and he made various prophecies. According to her, he prophesied that I'll be a pastor.
Yeah.
And that she will be a singer. But it looks like my prophecy came.
I remember her telling us this story, and she was very, very adamant and very sure that he prophesied over you and said that you are going to be a great pastor. And you looked blank. You didn't even understand what he was saying. And as soon as you guys got out of the room, you were like, phew, what a weird man.
And honestly, but she said that she remembers it so vividly. The fact is that over the last couple of decades of years, I have meant, and one day I'll do it, that I'll go and see him. I didn't remember that part of the story, but just to remind him that, because that was the day my dad passed away. So obviously my dad had passed away and everybody in the house had totally forgotten that.
There were children that needed to be picked up.
Who needed to be picked up, but he organized transport to take us home. And he prayed for us. But I didn't remember the details of the prayer till my cousin told me that actually the prayer was a prophecy that I'll be a pastor, and obviously came to pass, and I have no regrets.
I think you owe him a blessing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the last time I sort of had an opportunity to interact or talk to him, that's part of the story I didn't know. But now I would definitely go, and honor and let him know that his word never falls to the ground. It came to pass.
Okay. So that being said, you are a first generation pastor in your family. Um, how has it impacted your family?
Oh, I think that's where the contagious goes everywhere. I think that God bless my mom, but she was so excited about it because she knew that hopefully through that it would impact the rest of the family.
Mm,
And to a large extent, I believe it has, because before me going into ministry, we all had a level of skepticism when it came to ministry, pastors, and all that. And I believe that I have helped them to have that faith and understanding and to also want to draw closer and closer. I don't know if any, maybe the grandchildren, obviously, but I don't know if any of them will go all the way into ministry, but they are very open and, I can see that their relationship with God has really, and what even is so amazing, but I have come to realize that it's part of it, that indeed you become a high priest of your home, even though I'm the youngest, it looks like when advice or decisions are being taken, I'm almost always needed on the table. Or if they can't get to a consensus, everybody finds their own way to reach out to me, and it's like, make a declaration. So it's a grace that I appreciate, and I don't take it lightly at all.
Wow. So this is a question I ask all pastors and ministers I interview. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. If you had the opportunity to speak to your 9-year-old, 14-year-old self, knowing the things you know now, what would you have said, or what would you say to
My 9-year-old self my 14-year-old?
Your 14-year-old self, 9-year-old self?
I think as for when it comes to my 9-year-old self, I don't even think that I would have told my 9-year-old self to have, relaxed and enjoyed life more. Because I think for me, I matured at the age of 9 and had to take certain responsibilities, obviously because of the circumstance, but which I didn't need to. So I would have said, relax, and take it easy, not realizing that was actually an easy season of life, even though, and I think that applies to all of us. Sometimes at the stage of the life you're in, you think that, oh, this is the most, challenging, or the more, when actually it's not, but to my 14-year-old self, I would have said, put God first. Put God first before career, before studies, before friends, put God first. Because yes, God always makes up and catches up, but I truly believe that the greatest blessing and safety and to be able to have a certain level of, life, because he says that I've come that you may have life and have it more abundant.
Yeah.
So which means that the earlier you find him, the earlier you have life and have it more abundantly. So my 14-year-old self would have been God first before everything else, whatever the issues are, whether it's family, education, because looking at me now, I realize that if God had been at the center, maybe even my choices of career and everything would have been affected by it, and I would have been a little bit more adventurous in decision taking and not be so conservative or someone.
Right. Okay. So I remember I'm trying very hard not to go personal because I know most of the stories. But I remember a few recently when we were down for your mom's burial, a few old friends and everything were like, they've been following your ministry and they've been following you secretly and admiring you and all that. I mean, how does that make you feel when you hear people talk like that? People you haven't met for years and they come and tell you they know everything about you and what you're doing with your life till now.
I was in shock. I was so surprised. I was really, really, really surprised because there were some that maybe I haven't seen since high school. So there are some that I haven't seen in 40 years. 30 years, maybe since uni. And I was so shocked. And, seeing them, and it's like, it's a long time. They're like, oh, it's not a long time.
I saw you last Sunday. Your dad's on the stage.
No, sometimes they even give summaries of sermons.
The sermons you preached, yeah.
And that really humbled me. Really, really, really humbled me. I even had some of from my cousins and things I was saying, Philip was like, oh, even if I miss it, when I get home on the Sunday, I watch it, And then his wife was like, I feel like I know you, even though I hadn't met her, so that was really, surprising. But what also ministered to me was the fact that they were like, oh, you haven't changed at all, And I was so relieved that they could relate, and I hadn't become like this weird person that they cannot receive from, So I was so grateful that, because some of these people are people who don't do church, they don't, but somehow I have brought a certain exposure, and I was really, and I coming back after a few, I was like, I need to take this thing more seriously. In fact, I had my cousin came down for the funeral from America, and she was having a go at me that why have we stopped
your sisters
the weekly clips, and that I don't have a clue. And then she shared something, and when I came back, I just told the whole team that we need to do this thing, because she said there was one particular one that as soon as she listened to, she sent it to a friend who was suicidal.
She said
and
it.
When the lady listened to it, they prayed, and she's fine. I was like, I was so scared. I was like, we just feel like, oh, we are just having a chat, and it's just a minute thing to encourage, and we'll do when we can. But that really scared me. So I came back and repented. And
it's amazing, because when you speak to a camera, you think you're just speaking to a camera in a dark room somewhere, but you don't know how far it goes and who is being blessed by what you are saying. And I mean, especially when we're doing those sofa sermon on the sofa
during the
COVID time, all the conversations we're having, and the response we're getting from people, from different countries, Arab countries, coming and telling us how much they were blessed, and we think that who knows you, who knows us, and why are you receiving all this type of. So I think you need to take it seriously.
No, I mean, yes, you see, and I also feel like that's why when God prompts you, you have to, because the prompting has always been there, but you just feel like, oh, we'll do it when we can, But I believe that now we are really committed to it.
We must.
Yes, we must, In fact, one of the things she said, and even my sister said it, was the fact that it's not just about what you are sharing, but it's also how you're sharing it. Because sometimes you are able to expose it in a way
relatable.
Yes, and also in a very vivid way, without trying to sugarcoat it, And for most people that I met, especially in this season, they were like, yes, you were always blunt. And now you're keen the word of God.
In a very blunt way.
I'm like, oh no, I'm much more polished. I'm way more polished than that. No. I think that I've become very dignified.
Right. Okay. So before we leave, I want to give you this opportunity to speak to young, up-and-coming ladies who would find themselves on your seat one day. What would you say to them? Maybe they are not thinking about ministry now. They're just serving. They're just doing whatever. And they never know that one day they will be in the seat on your chair. What would you say to them?
You mean like God may call them into ministry?
Yes.
Oh, I think that I always say that your desire and your heart and your love must always be focused on God, and just be open to Him. Don't determine that, as for me, I can only, maybe I'm going to sing for God, or I'm going to, don't limit yourself, but line upon line, precept upon precept. God will add, when you are faithful to whatever He puts in your hand to do in the house of God, do it unto God, and open yourself up. Anytime you allow God to use you and you are just available to do, He'll always increase the grace, with any increase in responsibility, there will always be the grace to do it. And whoever you are, look at me. Somebody who's not friendly, somebody who doesn't particularly like. If you open yourself up, God will transform you. Even I am just so surprised when people are like, "Oh, you are always so excited," and that's not even me. Do you understand? But when God wants to use you and you allow Him, He will turn you into whatever He wants to turn you. You are just clay in His hands. Allow Him to mold you, and you'll be amazed what He can do for you. And trust me, it will help you as a young woman, as you're growing. Your beauty will stay, your love for life will stay, your joy will stay. You will always have great expectations, and those who are around you will always be affected by it. So do it from your heart.
Wow. Well, folks, it's been a pleasure having Pastor Gloria with us today, and I think we've
Also enjoyed it.
shared. And please help me beg her so that next time we don't have to bribe her too much for her to come again. She'll come.
I'll be back soon.
So until then, this has been your host, Pastor Chris, with Pastor Gloria, and this is Yacach. Shalom, peace. God bless you.